Today, we're going to be discussing the Trudeau government's controversial approach to internet regulation. And to do that, I'm very pleased to be joined by Peter Menzies, Senior Fellow at the Macdonald-Laurier Institute and a former commissioner with the Canadian Radio Television Commission. Peter, thanks so much for joining me.
Hey, my pleasure. Good to see you.
Now, obviously, there's quite a bit to talk about today, so let's dive right into it. I thought we might start with one of the bills that the government has proposed, Bill C-11, which makes amendments to the Broadcasting Act to expand the CRTC's ambit over user-uploaded content. Now, this bill has already passed the House of Commons. It's currently in the Senate. So, Peter, I know you've written quite a bit about this bill, and I wanted to get your thoughts on it and why it's so problematic.
Well, this is an amendment to the Broadcasting Act, which, of all things, grants a broadcasting regulator and telecommunications regulator, the CRTC, complete authority over the global internet. It's very broad in its the powers it grants the CRTC. It's undefined. There's areas like what is social media. We don't know where its limits are, and we don't know how much the CRTC intends on intervening. We seem to be being asked just to trust the CRTC, which is not, I think, where most Canadians are at.
So why is that problematic? I mean, you obviously sat on the CRTC yourself. You know what it does, what it has the ability to do. Are you simply saying there's just too much ambiguity and that the government shouldn't be giving this much latitude to the CRTC?
Well, first of all, I mean, yeah, sorry. The CRTC is designed to regulate a closed system, one where you receive information and you get a fixed number of channels, where you have a schedule of channels and what you watch. The internet is an entirely different thing, and it's much, much bigger than broadcasting. There are platforms on the internet that perform a similar function to traditional broadcasters, but they do it in a different way. So on the internet, you're always free to watch what you want to watch, when you want to watch, how you want to watch it, with who you want to watch it. With the CRTC is designed for a much more dictated system. So it's really, really problematic.
So, in other words, the CRTC is designed to do a certain thing, and the thing that this legislation is now empowering them to do is completely different than what it does otherwise?
Yeah, I mean, the assumption behind it that the government has made and that Heritage Canada has made is that the internet is broadcasting. And it's just not true, right? Netflix is a broadcaster, according to them. That's not, I mean, I can see why they think that, but Netflix is a video store, right? For those of us who remember video stores, Netflix killed the video store. It does have an impact on broadcasting, but mostly that's because the internet has been a free and open place where people can do all sorts of things. Plus, since there has been streaming and the CRTC has not been involved imposing Canadian content limits, etc., the Canadian film and television industry has prospered. For the prior to COVID, the 10 years leading up to, and it did pretty well through COVID too, the industry grew by 80% in terms of jobs and GDP and that. And a lot of it was foreign development. Now, true, not all of it was necessarily stories about Canada, but within the official CanCon system, there is lots of product. Vikings is one series to think about that qualifies as Canadian content that isn't Canadian content at all. Nothing about Canada in it at all. So to me, it just creates a level of uncertainty that is likely to harm the Canadian film and television industry. Will it provide more certainty in the amount of money it gets? For some of the players, the traditional players, yes. Will it stifle innovation and create uncertainty and probably dry up investment? Almost certainly.
I wonder, in your view, is part of the problem here the view of Canadian content and the way that it's shaped? We're sort of still stuck in a view about how it had to be protected and produced in a different era, and that the government simply hasn't updated their view of that, and that's reflected in these changes to the Broadcasting Act?
Yeah, I mean, there's legitimate reasons to promote Canadian cultural content, right? I mean, I think most people can agree on that. Government wants to invest in that area, wants to make sure we don't get overwhelmed by our huge neighbor, which, is a very powerful entertainment industry to the south. So there's ways you can do that. And if you wanted to create some legislation like Bill C-10 or Bill C-11 could have, that kind of carved out some funding from the very large players, you could do that. But the way they're doing it right now is just not something that's that's going to work. It's going to do more harm than good.